Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our morning coffee time for July the 31st, last day of July. Goodbye, July. Hello, August. How is everyone this morning, and how's everything sounding? Good to see so many familiar faces and names. And I thank you all for your avatars, faces and flowers, the occasional pet. I see a few people haven't yet graduated to that stage of our communal training here. So if you haven't yet figured out how to create a nice avatar, that's your homework for the day. Just another way we can share a little good cheer. And if you have a comment or question, I put it on the screen. It looks a little nicer than Mr. and Mrs. Anonymous. So I'm having one of those very domestic mornings where nothing seems to be going my way in the household, which we call a monastery because we're not really we've left the home life, but sometimes as an abbot in a very settled position in a monastery, you wonder exactly what that means when the sprinklers malfunction and the toilets are backing up and your main video light is malfunctioning. So I think I've gotten better over the years at not being surprised or frustrated by such things. But it still catches me off guard. And I have to be extra careful, especially when your day starts like that. This is the proverbial getting out of the wrong side of bed. But it's amazing just what the recognition and remembrance of the Buddha's words on dukkha can do. Like, oh yes, this is what the Buddha means when he says not getting what one wants is dukkha. So it's this theme I come back to again and again, like your relationship and your investment in the sense realm includes things going your way, nothing ever breaking, things lasting forever, a house that cleans itself. It's amazing to get 4 or 5 decades into your life and you still can't seem to remember that this is the nature of the world that we live in. You could come to your household where our well water is orange like carrot soup and iron bacteria. No, I don't have to go to your house, Holly, because we have 2 wells that have orange water like carrot soup with iron bacteria. And that's part of the complication of our our monastery water system is trying to deal with a little bit of that. So I opened a tap the other day over by the pond, which is in the front of the monastery. We're trying to give a bit of attention to right now, and carrot soup is what came out. But mindfulness and serenity and insight are remember the messengers that we want to let in. So when we find ourselves in the grips of dukkha, I'd say the quickest place to turn is whatever insights that we've generated and have near at hand. And one of them is just this recognition of, yeah, this is dukkha. That's part of the application of right mindfulness is like this watchfulness, attending to the body and mind and experience, and sensitive to the arising of dukkha. And it's hard to catch in its early stages. Usually it's got some momentum by the time mindfulness comes to our aid to flag it and say, oh yes, this is dukkha. I'm already somewhere along the process of getting myself worked up and a bit frustrated. And there's already some backstory of why things shouldn't be this way. And how unfair it is and what a burden it is. And how my to-do list will never empty. Actually cleaned out my 3 inboxes maybe 2 weeks ago or something, and I couldn't believe it. I had to do a double take. Like, what? There's nothing in my inbox. How can that be? For years, I've had the practice to try to empty my inbox every day, but I think for the last couple years, I've been largely unsuccessful. It does not look like some of your inboxes. I have friends, even monastic friends, who have shockingly insurmountable amount of messages in their inbox. Mine usually sort of ends the day somewhere between 5 and 20 or something. But we got to watch out for that. This is the voice of Mara, and these are the seeds of dukkha, these kind of little expectations that we have, this longing we have. This too is tanha. Oh, if my life was easier. Oh, if my inbox was empty. Oh, if the car didn't break down. And you think we would get this after 4, 5, 6, 7 decades of living. That in itself would be a noble goal, wouldn't it? To be able to just roll with the punches, I guess you could say, or just roll with life being this way, never getting caught in asking or expecting it to be otherwise. With love and equanimity in your heart, and a mind for what's good and skillful, still vigilant and attendant to creating good conditions. But how do we operationalize all this interest that we have in developing serenity and insight? And how do those two messengers come to save the day? First, there has to be the recognition that one is ill, one is suffering. And it has this strange power to call it out for what it is, to call it by its name. Like it feels very different to be caught in this story of, oh, here I go, I'm getting worked up, I'm getting frustrated, I shouldn't be so frustrated. It's not a big deal. And some of those forms of self-talk are still very much framed with the self-view. It's all about me and mine and my reaction and how I maybe should or shouldn't be. That feels very different than having the mindfulness to the bodily, the emotional, the mental experience of, say, frustration or not getting what one wants. And the dawning of recognition of that one is in that state, and that in itself is what the Buddha is talking about when he says, this is dukkha. And then quickly getting to the roots of those things, it's all about what we call delusion, but it's just misaligned expectations. Still on some level, we're wishing and wanting or expecting life to be different than it is, like easier than it is, or for me to be more capable than I am, for things to be more durable than they are, for everything just to flow nicely and smoothly. And that's a delusion, and there is a sense of tanha, and there is a sense of self embedded in that way of relating to your experience that breeds dukkha. And I do find it amazing, like, to evoke that frame, to establish that relationship, which just recognizes it as dukkha. And there's some space there for it, not even to be about me or mine. It's just the endless drama of human life. And so, yeah, you call it out by name, you recognize it. Mindfulness and wisdom recognize it for what it is. This is dukkha. And sometimes just with the mere calling it by name, the mere recognition of it, the accumulated insights, the accumulated skillfulness that we've developed in our Dhamma practice moves towards relinquishment and letting go. Sometimes it doesn't even take a very strong act of will. It's just to recognize, like, oh, I'm caught up. And it's just like, we find ourselves winding ourselves up, and I'm getting cranked about this. I need to back off. But somehow seeing it through the lens of Dhamma and seeing it as dukkha, as the manifestation of the First Noble Truth, reflecting on tanha, the root causes, the Second Noble Truth, and particularly the desire structure, the desire for it to be different, or even the desire for my capacity to be different, to relate to the inevitable challenges of life, be what they may. And then recognizing that the Course is through the cessation, letting go, relinquishment, cessation, what I call changing your relationship to it. It's like, oh yeah, if I invest in this way of being, dukkha is the result. If I move towards patience, kindness, acceptance, equanimity, towards the realization of this is a selfless experience, then the mind moves to peace and clarity. And instead of the refuge in getting what you want in the world of conditions, we take refuge in awareness and knowing. Take refuge in this serene and clear state of mind that we can return to again and again through the cultivation of the path. So a few thoughts about how to skillfully navigate this life and relate to the inevitable challenges, and how that might also relate to this Dhamma, this discipline. How to use these teachings on the Four Noble Truths and how to turn to and rely upon serenity and insight to help us navigate those inevitable challenges. I like your comment here, Sumana. This reflection, so appropriate this morning for me. Listening and smiling at the voice that says, oh, it's going to be that kind of day. Yeah, we want to be careful about those kinds of stories. The mind is inclined to do that. Have to be on guard, heedful, not to tell ourselves those kinds of stories. Oh, it's going to be that kind of day. Like, what is that? Like, it can be an ability to bolster a little bit of equanimity and patience. But it's not the perfect tool because you've already framed the day as somehow being wrong or bad. And, that acts as a condition for recognizing what's wrong. You've primed yourself to attend to the fault. So we got to be careful of. It's kind of interesting. Like, I have this model in my mind of the common ways we relate to things, and I think of them as tools, which I guess is a very guy kind of thing. And there's good tools and there's bad tools, or there's good tools and there's better tools. And then something I learned at a Baikiri, kind of building the monastery there over the years, is there's value in having the right tool for the right job. Like, there are some specialty tools that seem extremely expensive and maybe frivolous in some situations, but I had the experience many times where we delayed getting a particular kind of tool and made do with other tools and other means for a number of years. And then at some point, the monastery finally was offered or acquired some particular tool. And then it was amazing how much better the work went, how much quicker, how much easier, how the end product was better. And we'd always think, we should have got that years ago. And I came up with this idea, the right tool for the right job. And, we have all kinds of tools, but sometimes they're not as good as they could be. And so we have all kinds of skillful means, as Ajahn Chah would say, or upaya. I think in a modern vernacular, we might call it hacks. All kinds of little things that we say to ourselves and ways we kind of steer ourselves cognitively and emotionally to try to deal with the inevitable challenges of life and minimize suffering. But the Dhamma does really offer us a chance to kind of re-examine how well tuned some of those things are for the various challenges of life, and also offer us new tools, or at least new ways of assessing the best way to sort of deal with the inevitable challenges of life. Good morning, Adil. Does the wish, oh, if only I could become a monk, count as well? Yeah, I think so. I think it does count. It's just another way of obstructing finding peace and well-being in the present moment. And if we have faith that the holy life and the life of a monastic is useful and skillful, that's wonderful, but it or anything else shouldn't be used to generate suffering. And even the good can act as a cause for the generation of suffering. And being a monk doesn't really solve all that many problems. It provides critical kind of supports and a great atmosphere if one finds a good monastery, and if one gets good training, one can establish that good support and good atmosphere almost anywhere they go. But it still doesn't really solve the problem of dukkha. I've heard Thai friends approach dukkha events with happiness in recognizing vipaka has borne fruit and is now done. Comments. It seems skillful to me. I think it's probably a mixed bag, June. I mean, there's some skillfulness there, recognizing, and this is this kind of skillfulness that might not come to mind to somebody whose conditioning comes outside of a Buddhist culture. But the skillfulness there is sort of recognizing that karma is kind of playing a role in the conditions that we're meeting in our life. And it has that, at best, it might have a little bit more of a transpersonal, selfless kind of frame to it. And it might help sort of move one to equanimity, patience, and acceptance. I think the flaw there is, like, we never find the end of karma. So thinking of karma as this sort of thing that we have a storehouse and that it's fruiting and now we're done or free from it, kind of extrapolate it out, sort of there's some problems there because you never come to the end of karma that way. Discontent with how things are and how we ourselves are is a big source of energy and motivation. How does one stay motivated without getting wrapped up in dukkha? Well, there are teachings, Jay, where the Buddha is kind of encouraging the monks not to be overly contented with what it is that they've developed or cultivated and to keep pushing sort of further. And, one can extrapolate that back into their life, but I think it's a question of not generating the kind of a type of discontent that serves as a source of suffering. And again, like tanha, it's like the desire structure is always something that needs to be kind of examined there. So like if we're sort of thinking, if we're generating sort of discontent and it's all confected with wishing and wanting and hoping and selfing, then it's going to generate a whole lot of dukkha. And I think the most skillful way out of that is our faith in goodness, faith in kind of developing what we might call like a tiered hierarchy of skillfulness, our blessings, and learn how to kind of align ourselves with the intrinsic goodness of those things. And the more we understand the deeper value in skillfulness and in the good, I think the more we can be kind of propelled by faith and almost like drawn to sort of putting forth effort to sort of cultivate the good, as opposed to it being ideologically sort of driven, like I should be like this, or this is not good enough, I need to be like that. So like, say for instance, the quality of your meditation. We always want to be sensitive to sort of what the obstacles are to a more profoundly skillful and good meditative experience. But we don't want to interject tanha and a lot of self into that equation. It's just more like recognizing how much more powerful it could be if certain obstacles could be removed, if certain unskillful sort of habits can be unwound. So I would look, examine sort of like what's going on with the story of self and tanha when we talk about not being overly contented with how things are. And also even like when we think about the potential for developing the good in our life. And if I think we see the kind of profound value in the good or something, it's almost like it attracts us, it draws us to it, rather than it's like something we need to push ourselves to. It kind of automatically sort of draws us. It's like this alluring, beautiful mountain or sight. You don't have to push yourself to go do something that is so beautiful and alluring. One is just drawn to it. Years ago, when I was training at Wat Nanachat, Ajahn Jayasaro was the abbot at that time, and he invited Prop Yuto, this beautiful, lovely kind of Thai scholar monk. And I remember he gave a talk. Wait, this is confused memory. Actually, I remember Ajahn Jayasaro reading some of his writing. And he might have talked about this in this talk, but anyways, besides the point. I remember him talking about motivation and kind of highlighting that if one does something for the wrong reasons, then like there's kind of a blemish in what's going on. And the example he gave, if I remember it right, was like imagine a street sweeper in Bangkok, and he goes out and he sweeps the street as a job just to get money. And if his only motivation is to get money or something, he's not properly sort of aligned with the intrinsic sort of benefit of sweeping the street. What's the intrinsic benefit of sweeping the street? A clean street, which people value. And you get paid for that because people value it. But if you're aligned with the intrinsic value of the good, I think your motivational structure is purified in a way that it isn't if there's some sort of misalignment. So like imagine, you're the sweet streeper, and if you're just there for the money, if your salary goes down, or if you don't get paid, and you have no interest in serving the community by cleaning the streets, then you're totally bereft. But if the core of your motivational structure is service and aligned with the intrinsic value of sweeping the street, then, and you don't get paid, you still have the reward, the natural reward of clean streets and service to the community. And you could deal with the money thing, but at least you have the intrinsic kind of reward, the natural sort of benefit of that. And I think of that example sort of related to kind of the cultivation of Dhamma and the path. So it's like if we're cultivating sort of serenity for the highest reasons, for the kind of intrinsic reasons. And in Buddhism, we would say that is to help fuel and support the cultivation of the path, and then it becomes sama samadhi. That's the best that we can do. And in some sense, I think the more we can kind of recognize what are the natural benefits of some course of action or developing something, I think our motivational structure is purified in a way, and we're naturally kind of attracted to it and drawn to it for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. If it's not pure, then there's at least the liability for all kinds of trouble. So, you could be trying to develop the jhanas or serenity through some frame of ego or self. Prove something to yourself. Prove you can do it. Or as an adornment to your concept of self. And, if that's part of the basket of motivations, or if that's the only motivation, the chief motivation, then the motivational structure is not in alignment with the natural benefit of developing sama samadhi. And in fact, we call it miccha samadhi. Wrong or misaligned. So, okay, well, I'm going to leave it at that for today, friends. It's gone 8:40 now. That's it for the month of July. I'll see you tomorrow morning on the morning coffee for the 1st of August. And brief reminder, there's an Ajahn V talk, I believe, today at 4 p.m. on the West Coast, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. It's one of his Zoom talks. And then I believe tomorrow, Ajahn Sona will be giving a talk as well on Zoom. So, and then Sunday we'll have the 6th in the Jhana series. And Monday we'll have Ajahn Sona back on the live stream for some questions and answers. So, Dhamma, Dhamma, Dhamma. There's Dhamma every day online this season. So, okay. Farewell, friends. Have a good day. Tell yourself some skillful stories. And don't sweat the small stuff. Bye for now.